Let's do it. Let's do it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's September 29th, 2025. This is the AMCC's National 30-minute call at the same time every Monday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, 8:30 Pacific time. I'm Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC, the nation's manufacturing community of practice, and David Van Sicklen is our Operations Director. You all know we have these two kinds of 30-minute Monday calls, roundtables and presentation type Monday calls, 30 minutes every Monday. And in either case or both cases, we do a quick level set on some basics. Then we have a few people introduce themselves to model the, diversity of the manufacturing ecosystem of support that's key, to making American progress, knowing each other, building common narrative strategies, and so we can all be more productive in our actions and ultimately get to better structures to produce the priority products that can lift manufacturers, their employees, their communities, and the American project. So after a few intros, on the roundtable type, we go around the room. On the presentation type, like today, we ask somebody to, dive into their expertise and one aspect of how to improve what we call the manufacturing ecosystem of support for producing priority products in regions. And thanks to all of you, the working hypothesis that we now have is that there are these 6 big elements of an effective regional manufacturing ecosystem of support that all parts of it need to be operating sufficiently for regional manufacturers and their communities to thrive. And so today we have a presentation about one of those big 6 elements of the manufacturing ecosystem of support. A big E that we talk about a lot, workforce and training. And some interventions that are underway. And I'm looking forward to that. But back to kind of the level setting part, just to remind, there's new folks come on this call all the time. And so we have this, just a reminder, we have this 30-minute call on Monday every week, and it goes with what happens on Friday, which is an AMCC update newsletter that goes out that's, chock full of funding opportunities, events, articles, and all kinds of cool things that can be useful to you and your work with your networks and trying to strengthen the manufacture of priority products. And this is to say thanks to all of you that send us info. We depend on you to make that AMCC update newsletter impactful, to make that to help spur kind of relevant conversations every Monday morning. So we're off on our own with our own networks and our own regions, with the latest and best information. For example, I didn't see this last week, but thanks to Ben McLaughlin in Maryland's Department of Commerce sent me last week, OMB OSTP, the Office of Science Technology Policy. They put out an 8-page memo about the fiscal year 20. Let's see if I can drop this into the chat here. I'll do that with my contact information. I'm a little slow on the draw here, everybody. So there's my contact information, and then this link to research priorities for fiscal year 2027 for the federal government. And, scoreboard, right? We've got all of this divisiveness in this country and violence and whatever. We're in a space where we can come together. I've skimmed this thing. It's 8 pages long, and there's a lot of common purpose in this, and so it's just underscores the importance of us leaning forward together to try to find common cause across this. I think this reflects a lot of common cause and a place for us to really strengthen the American project. Is a good place for us to do that, and you all are practitioners with us in doing that. So I don't know. I just a lot of good things practically in there. I think it underscores, what we've been trying to do is to engender as much input from you all as to what ought to be a part of the national strategy for advanced manufacturing that's going to come out next year. The deadline for that is December 12th. David, if you could drop that link into the chat about how do you give input and what our kind of four big ideas are to really effectuate many of the things that are in that OSTP memo from last week about what ought to be the fiscal year, priorities for 2027, fiscal year 2027. So anyway, that's, it's a promising alignment, I would say, of what the best evidence says that we ought to be doing, right? And so I just want to bring that to everybody's attention, and you know, on a kind of a hopeful note, because we've got to be pushing in that direction. As you know, I could go on, but we have a presentation today, and so first let's go to what we do every week, at least to model our participatory attitude here at AMCC. If you're new, raise your hand, introduce yourself, say where you are in the country and what perch you happen to occupy, public, private, nonprofit part of the manufacturing ecosystem. It could be in economic development, it could be in research, it could be in supply chain support, any of those areas in policy, or the federal government, or state governments. There's all kinds of places that have a meaningful role in this meaningful work. So let's take a few moments to call on a few people and just say where you are and what your work is. Nate Hollums, welcome. Tell us where you are and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. So Nate Hollums, I'm here from beautiful downtown Cincinnati, and we offer a corporate wellness plan to manufacturers, nonprofits, cities. We're enrolling our seventh state and provide about $1,000 a year in savings to the employee or employer, and no cost, nothing out of pocket for the employee or the employer. So looking to help people attract and retain employees.
That's awesome, Nate. So glad you're on the call, and you're always welcome. Look forward to learning what's happening in Cincinnati, the challenges that you face, and the best practices, that like some cool stuff that's working there that other regions could learn from, so we can move, farther, faster. Steve Black, haven't seen you for a while, sir. Why don't you tell us where you are and all your work? Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks. Absolutely. Yeah, Steve Black with the Utah MEP. We serve the state of Utah with a consortium of partners across the state, with our own little ecosystem of sorts. And we provide everything from kind of obviously operational excellence training through automation support, AI, and other initiatives as well that are going on, cybersecurity. Anyway, grateful to always be a part. Appreciate Matt and David and their good work here. But yeah, thanks, David.
Yeah. Thank you. And how about one more? Let's go the Mahoning Valley. I don't see your name there, but welcome. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Julie Michael Smith, and I am affiliated both with the Mahoning Valley Manufacturers Coalition in Eastern Ohio, as well, which is a long-established IP in Ohio for over 15 years and is endorsed by the Ohio Manufacturers Association. And working also in Lawrence and Mercer counties over in Western Pennsylvania. So we have great bi-state cooperation and standing up an industry sector partnership in that region as well.
Great. Well, welcome. Thanks for being on. And same thing, like I said with Nate, love to learn more about what you guys are doing. You guys have our contact information, David and mine. Send us information by email or call us or whatever. We're all in this together. So without any further ado, let me introduce our presenters today, Andy Stetner and Michelle Burris from our longtime BFFs, the Century Foundation. Thanks for the ongoing and long-standing teamwork. And let's hear about what lessons you guys are learning, from some of your workforce-related interventions in the Midwest. Andy?
Sounds good. Well, good morning,
Oh, sorry,
everyone.
Michelle. Yeah,
Oh, it's okay. Sounds
yeah.
good. Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. As Matt said, Andy Stetner and I are going to be presenting some insights we learned from our partners in the Midwest. We have a deck ready, and I'm going to try to keep my video on. My internet is a little weird today. If I freeze, I'll just go off video. If Matt or David, you can just let me know. Okay, we are ready to go. All right, we can go to the next slide, please, David. Oh, yep, perfect. Thank you so much. So again, good morning, everyone. Just to give you all a short overview of the cohort we are going to describe. Today, we will focus on our industry and inclusion cohort, and we will use the next 15 minutes to particularly discuss our third iteration. Started in 2020 by the Century Foundation and the Urban Manufacturing Alliance, now known as Mechanism, as of today. We started this cohort to help manufacturing ecosystems bolster the success of students and workers in manufacturing programs and jobs. We had three goals when we started this cohort. One, to fill workforce gaps in the industrial base. At the time of now about 3.8 million job openings in manufacturing. Our second goal is to create a community of practice where national workforce stakeholders can learn best practices for bolstering their local manufacturing sector through talent models. And our third goal, as I mentioned, is to help these ecosystems bolster their success. So particularly during our third cohort, we worked in three regions, and they are Cook County in Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, and in Northeast Ohio. We picked these three regions because collectively they were the recipients of either the Build Back Better or the Good Jobs Challenge. And that was about totaling $100 million in grants. And this came from the Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration. Our purpose was to be consultants and to support their high quality economic and workforce development plans. So, for about 2 years, our cohort provided technical assistance, we curated resources, we also supported them in areas such as employer accountability, wraparound services, and strategic recruitment. We participants also came together. We were able to come together in person in Detroit, and we also engaged in structured workshops around culturally competent education and also trauma-informed practices. We can go to the next slide, please, David. So in terms of how the Century Foundation and how Mechanisms looks at talent development, we first want to evaluate the labor market. We want to think about who is not participating and why. So whether it be the benefits cliff or a lack of job quality or people not being attracted to manufacturing jobs, we wanted to first examine why that is the case and how do we develop solutions to overcome. So our goal is to identify the profiles of people who are underemployed or unemployed in each of these locations. And as I mentioned, we provided a customized technical assistance plan for each of these regions to identify the needs of employers, workers and employers, and also students. We can go to the next slide, please. So our first is Cook County, Chicago, where we worked. Cook County is the recipient of the Good Jobs Challenge, and they used the grant to boost pandemic recovery while also meeting the needs of manufacturers. We particularly worked with the Bureau of Economic Development, where they focused on employer engagement. They identified some of the skills that were particularly needed in the west and south side of Chicago, particularly in the areas of CNC machining, upskilling for incumbent workers, and also metal machine equipment. When we asked Cook County what was their biggest success, it was creating partnerships that are employer-led and employers committing to upskilling their incumbent workers or increasing on the job training offerings. Unfortunately, our contact for Cook County could not make it to this call today, but she did want us to also highlight a program that they did with their Illinois MEP called IMEC, where they were able to work with employers and manufacturing employers were able, 33% of them were able to do new job creation through this partnership. Another area that they're doing, the Bureau is focusing on the Apprenticeship Accelerator. As we all know, this Friday is Manufacturing Day, and they are trying to simplify the process for employers to start new apprenticeships and also bring employers into the entity of the Bureau and ensure that there are partnerships aligned to be able to start apprenticeships in this area of Chicago. Another focus area of Cook County was also creating a sewing credential, particularly with the National Institute of Metalworking Skills, also known as NIMS. They did a local needs assessment and found that sewing was very popular and also in high demand in that area. So during this period and during this grant, they were able to create a credential. We can go to the next slide, please. So now I will focus on Detroit. Detroit is the recipient of the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, particularly through their GEM initiative. And GEM stands for Global Epicenter of Mobility. So as we all know, Detroit put the world on wheels, and they wanted to go bigger than that. They wanted to define mobility broader in terms of air, land, and in water transportation. And so we particularly focused on the upskilling and manufacturing workforce and programs. And we were able to work with the GEM initiative, particularly the Southeast Michigan Community Alliance and Detroit Future City, to help workers prepare for jobs related to mobility, electrification, and in advanced manufacturing. So even though the jobs in electric vehicle are not here yet, we were still able to help them identify and work with them in identifying career profiles that workers could go into, and that way they could still apply the training that they have into some of these other career profiles and be able to be in a job with wages that are family sustaining. We also work with Detroit Future City as they centered community voice. They are very community embedded, and they started with focus groups, listening to the needs of workers and what jobs would be popular to them or would they be attracted to when it comes to advanced manufacturing. They also partnered with the University of Michigan to conduct some of this research. And currently, I'm working with colleagues in Detroit as we develop credentials for communities of color and how do we ensure that these credentials will be credentials of value in manufacturing in the coming years or maybe months. We can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so I'll just continue talking about Detroit. In Detroit, they were able to use community and oh, there we go. It's the slide right before it. Perfect. In Detroit, they were able to use also community embedded practices to conduct their research during this grant. And one approach I want to highlight is that Detroit was able to partner with PBS, and on the TV, they were able to show careers in manufacturing and also to get people excited for careers in advanced mobility through this partnership with PBS and people being able to see the exciting careers in manufacturing from their own home. So now I will pass it to Andy, who will finish us out in this presentation. And I hope everyone has a great manufacturing day on Friday. Andy, the floor is yours.
Andy, I'm not hearing you. I'm not sure if
I was on mute. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll pick up on the work in Ohio. Ohio was a Good Jobs Challenge recipient. And one of the key takeaways from Ohio's work, and you heard it from introduction from our colleagues in the Mahoning Valley, was really the value of industry and sector partnerships. Multiple studies have demonstrated the value of industry partnerships and successful training programs to gear training to employer needs and provide a forum for discussion of training and employment strategy over time. Every single job training program you see out there talks about consulting with employers, but that's not a partnership. A partnership is something that's an ongoing back and forth between employers, workers, unions, over time. And Ohio has made that commitment The ISPs there were able to adapt to some of the changing conditions that came out of the pandemic, and to continue to meet the needs of their employers, through this period and into the future. They've accessed additional funding and support, both from through Lieutenant Governor transition, then from additional federal funding. So really, the industry and sector partnerships was the key takeaway from our work in Ohio. You can go to the next slide there, David. So this, we looked at all three of these communities, all the technical assistance that we did, and all the lessons we learned.
See that St. Patrick in Latonia's on the list.
Through this initiative, and we came up with both some practitioner and policy recommendations. One is we'll continue to see manufacturing initiatives focus on breakthrough technologies, but a very key lesson, especially at early stages of manufacturing technology before widespread adoption, it's really important for training plans to be broad enough to provide multiple pathways for workers. Of course, we want, our training and education plans to think about everything from scientists, to engineers, to technicians. But if there's not going to be specific technician jobs immediately in that technology, let's make sure that our training pathways are going to give people chances for the jobs they're going to get after a credential of a year or less. The second key recommendation, for practitioners is if you want to go far, go together. So really that requires really taking a complete ecosystem approach to meeting workforce needs in manufacturing, both large and small employers, which we saw a pain point. Sometimes large employers aren't involved in these initiatives, thinking they could do it on their own. Community leaders, K-12, higher ed, regional government, really all need to come together. And too often, there's a focus on just training people for a certain set of jobs and not building that ecosystem. And then, really thinking about the holistic needs of trainees when designing programs, especially when it comes to directly funding through your workforce training, something we call barrier removal. If there's a barrier for an individual to be able to get a manufacturing job, whether that be, I feel like am I frozen?
No, you sound good to me.
Good, good. Michelle and Matt were not moving, so I wasn't sure if they were just being frozen. Sorry about that. So I would say we talk this term barrier removal. So if someone needs, a car repaired, someone needs a bus pass, access to childcare, can we remove those barriers, to let them be able to complete a training program and get a job where they end up taking care of those responsibilities themselves? All right, we can go to the next slide. So then some additional policy recommendations. Century Foundation, we're a policy organization. Most federally funded training goes directly to the provision of the actual training, rather than the creating of these talent ecosystems. And we really need more funding that is really tied to ecosystem building. Lastly, when we think about everything that's happened in the manufacturing talent space, we're looking to support those communities of practice that can be really act as a force multiplier across communities that are solving different challenges, but that are overlapping. They really can, we can really move this work much forward, further forward if we learn from each other. And then lastly, wraparound services. They are a must. They should be required and funded element of the workforce grants that we're talking about. Childcare, transportation, access to food, all these wraparound services people need when they're training for a job, particularly if they're going from unemployed, to employed, mentoring, all these different wraparound services. We can go on to the next slide. So the Century Foundation is continuing to do this work. As Matt mentioned in the intro, the environment is changing. But there's some enduring, interest, in getting people into manufacturing careers and thinking about how we're going to do that. What's our next step? Well, one of the big next steps that the Century Foundation, is seeing is that work with community colleges. They're already our largest and most geographically diverse set of training providers, in the country, and they're increasingly focused on non-degree credentials that will get people quickly to work. And manufacturing is, in our research is usually top of the list, especially when a company is expanding or building a facility in the community, getting a non-degree credential to get those workers, into those jobs. But this has been kind of the Wild West of higher education. There's a lot of standards and funding for degrees, but non-degree credentials, it's really been, funded in a variety of ways, from the person themselves paying for it, the company, economic development, tax incentives, and really not a standard way of thinking about, well, how do we make sure that these are actually credentials of value, that people have an increase in their earnings. So we are working with 12 states, along with 5 similar organizations like ourselves as intermediaries, to think about how we can create credentials of value, in higher education, and in particular manufacturing. Our 2 states are Mississippi and Louisiana. The other states that are coming out, for this range all the way from Alabama to Texas, with New Jersey and North Carolina in between, and we'll be coming out with a set of really strategic plans in those 12 states that will roll into implementation. Really, the idea of leveraging both a lot of the new federal funding through the One Beautiful Bill for Pell Grants for these shorter programs, with a lot of the philanthropic interest, in credentials of value. So that's kind of where our work is going. And so next slide, please. If you want to learn a little bit more about our research, these recommendations and more were in our report that Matt had circulated when it came out in the summer, around on our website. And we're eager for questions, insights, and support.
Yeah, Michelle also dropped a link in the chat, and everybody use the chat. It's fantastic. Michelle, good work. Andy, thank you so much for your leadership. Quick question. So we just have a couple of minutes, but this is an ongoing dialogue, you guys. We keep this meeting to 30 minutes. Yeah, it's short and all of that, but it's in hopes of continuing the dialogue, connecting with people to talk about it on future calls, talk about it through email, that we actually get into the AMCC update. These things are connected, right? And so quick questions for Andy or Michelle here so far. Yeah.
I think we have time.
Yeah, well, I
one
got plenty of
question. Happy to
questions. We had a meeting, with the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and trying to get all of the engineering societies to lean into enabling community colleges to be a workforce test bed. I suspect I haven't dove into your report on this particular topic, but I want to look back at it, you guys, to see how, if at all, you're harnessing those societies that are really embedded in chapters, all across the country, to enable that. I don't know. Is that something that is on your radar?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that one of the key pieces to that is in this idea of mentoring and support. If you want to, especially if you're trying to reach into communities, geographic areas, et cetera, that have not been successful in manufacturing, even if they have facilities right there, finding those leaders from those societies, it can be a mentor to someone. Say, here's where you can end up if you start in this field, whether you start on the front lines, of a factory, or whether you want to go right to more of a college degree and full engineer. Think of this as a pathway. That's really where we want to break through. We have all these all these approaches to show kids jobs in manufacturing. But then we feel like those are a failure if someone doesn't go work in a factory. Well, if we want to show you a job in, a broader thing. It could be everything from being a technician, all the way up to being an engineer or to owning a company, really showing those. And I think those societies can play a real key role in making those recruitment efforts more holistic.
Well, thank you guys. We're at the top of the hour. Michelle Burris and Andy Stettner from the Century Foundation. Have a great week, everyone. Let's keep our fingers crossed on making progress this week across the board. Happy Manufacturing Day. It's for many Manufacturing Week and month, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Have a great week. Thanks so much.